Hi, this is Jeff Hendrickson, and welcome to Dinner with Creatives, where we discuss ideas, collaboration, and action in the worlds of art and design. In this installment, we learn about three New York City-based creatives, each with a unique and fresh perspective on their crafts and how they bring it to the world around them.
Here we go. Meredith is a Brooklyn-based designer and entrepreneur working in both the fashion and fitness industries. She's the art director and founder of Cats, a bold company built on collaborations between artists, designers, singers, writers, dancers, and others. And also the creative director of Rogata, New York City, a boutique fitness studio delivering a high-intensity, low-impact boot camp experience. Growing up in Alexandria, Virginia, she graduated from James Madison University with a graphic design degree. After college, she was accepted to her dream program, the Transdisciplinary Design MFA, at the New School Parsons in New York City. But instead of attending the new school, she made the decision to dive headfirst into entrepreneurship. She packed her car and moved to New York City, a city saturated with creative talent. That is where she launched Cats. It all started with hand-painted apparel, but quickly grew larger into events and concerts. Now, during the COVID-19 era, Cats has once again adapted and launched a fashionable face mask collection, of which I am the proud owner of two. Okay. Meredith's creative process is avoid changes along the way. The mission remains the same: design with purpose, design with people you admire, and always remember to enjoy the process. So everybody, I give you Meredith Pilcher. Take it away, Meredith.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. First of all, this is an amazing idea to pull everybody together from many, many places. You guys are all over the US, and it's such a wonderful thing to do during this time. So thank you. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep, we got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So let me screen share. Let me see here.
And I'm turning off video. If you still have video on, I'm turning off video except for the four presenters, okay? All right, there we go. We got you.
Okay. Let's see. I'm so directionally challenged sometimes. Okay. Full screen. So I'm Meredith Pilcher. I'm a designer, founder, and a creative thinker.
We lost your image, Meredith.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I bet that might be. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we got you back.
Okay, guys, we might have to keep it on that.
That's cool.
Okay.
Just go
yeah,
there.
it's okay.
That's cool.
Cool. Okay, so I'm the founder of Cats and the creative director of Rogata. But today, I actually want to talk about my creative process based on like three articles that I wrote about during this time. So I'm, wait, hold on a second. Oh, wait, it's like, for some reason, it's doing this weird thing. Okay. You guys can still see it?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to bring my creative process to light and talk about three blog articles that I recently wrote addressing more of a system-oriented solution approach. Just kind of like what I was doing with the transdisciplinary design program and had the direction that I wanted to go in originally when I moved to New York. So it's all coming full circle during this time. So I wrote three articles that are currently up on my blog, focusing on transportation, healthcare, and architecture during the COVID-19 pandemic. So first, I wanted to tell you guys about kind of like the steps that I take and my process, kind of like the outline. First, I identify a possibility or problem within a system. So that can be social, economic, political, environmental issues. It can be small scale or large scale. So once I identify a problem, I do research and I dig into kind of this like initial design and I explore the possibilities of what that potential solution could be. From there, if I wanted to take my ideas further, I would gather a team, do the multidisciplinary group, pull them together and expand upon not only what I know, because I am limited, we're all limited at a certain capacity, right? We want other outlooks, mindsets, different angles of looking at problems, create an even stronger solution, and then implement that solution into a real world application. So during my articles, I focus on just identifying the problem, researching, and initial design. So case study number 1 focused on transportation, redesigning New York City's above ground transportation system to promote social distancing via walk, bike, and electric. So there are 18 million people in New York City, which is just not conducive to social distancing. I know that if many of you living in New York, visiting New York, it's not uncommon for you to bump elbows with somebody and think that's totally fine. Like, it's really so compact. So that's a problem. I wanted to focus on how we as individuals move through the city, and I suggested 3 steps in doing so. So 1 is giving the streets to the people, continuing to shut down roads. Mayor de Blasio actually pledged to shut down 100 miles already of roads during this process to give the people the streets to walk on, to use with like bikes. And there's actually 6,000 miles of roads within New York City. And I highly doubt that they're all being used to transportation capacity. So give people the roads. And then once you have the roads, redesign them with like clearly designated paths and greenery. So give it structure. Once you give it structure, then you can encourage the growth of bike shares and other solo electric micromobility products, which we, before COVID, before shutting down roads, would not have otherwise been able to do. So this is my initial proposal of what Times Square could look like if you shut down the road and put 3 paths, 1 for biking, 1 for walking and running, and 1 for electric. So essentially the bike and the walk are just extensions of what we already have, right? The electric is the new element, and that allows it full expansion. Like, that allows you to implement and bring in full throttle scooters, which are currently illegal, unless you full throttle share scooters, which are illegal, which could not be and could be brought in if we did have these paths. And then also bringing in electric bikes, which would be really cool. So bringing these in, introducing them to our community could be really beneficial in social distancing. So that's up on my blog. Case study number 2. This is talking about local healthcare communication and CityMD's opportunity to lead the COVID-19 communication and support. So I pitched this to the CityMD marketing team on March 5th, 2020, which was a few days after our first case in the city. So I don't know if you guys know, CityMD is unique to New York in the metro area. It's a medical urgent care clinic, and it's about 10 years old and has over 100 locations and 300 providers. It is truly from working with startups for the past couple of years, looking at their company structure, they have the ability to quickly implement change way quicker than hospitals and other medical facilities that already have that hierarchy, right? So that is CityMD. And identifying the problem. So we have, and keep in mind, this was way before the shutdown. This was way before we were even really talking about the coronavirus significantly in New York City. I think a week or so before we had the staging of shutdown. Okay, so obviously the problem is that the virus is sweeping across Asia and Europe in February. And I felt that it was inevitable. A respiratory virus in such a compact city would clearly spread. And the way in order to control the spread and manage fear was going to be with the unification of communication on a national, state, local, and community level. I was particularly interested with the local level. So this is part of the presentation that I sent to them, which is hospitals are the highest level, right? But 80% of the confirmed coronavirus cases were said not to be severe, which meant that they were going to seek neighborhood resources. And with 100 locations, they can not only provide what they do already, which is care when people are sick, but they can provide education, prevention, support, and kindness, relieving fear and anxiety. So I proposed that they could do this with 2 parallel marketing plans. One is prevention marketing and one is support and trauma marketing. So addressing how do we stop the spread? How do we protect each other? What are the symptoms? When should I get help? Where to go? Who's qualified? And just valid, up-to-date statistics. It was such a new virus. It is still a new virus that when we receive information, factual information, it was going to be needed to be presented in a clear and calm and concise way. So that's the prevention. And then the trauma would be obviously like people who had to see family members die, or there was just everything emotional that goes into it. There was going to need to be a lot of support. So with those 2 marketing plans, I suggested partnerships with companies in the city. One was with this company called Outfront Digital Signage. And the digital signage companies already have these LED screens in the subways and in other areas around the city. So by partnering with them, they could update these screens with valid information in real time. Then to bring awareness to the actual location of the city MD. A lot of us, when we're walking through New York, we have tunnel vision, right? It's just what we do. And I walk by my stores all the time and I look up and I'm like, wait, where did this coffee shop come from? So same with City MD. You need something out there in front of the store. I suggested partnering with Purell. This was before the hand sanitizer situation. So that people would see a sign and they would understand that there was clear messaging, visual communication with a sign, but then also an action to do, which is like pumping the hand sanitizer and keeping your hands clean to prevent the spread of the virus. Then also the channel would be to partner with therapy applications as part of that trauma support. So that is up on my blog as well. And then case study number 3, architecture. So this is my newest project that I've been working on. It's still has a lot to go, I think, with the development of it. It's not yet up on my site. This is to the point where I could actually bring in another team to push it even further, potentially as like a business idea. So rethinking architecture in order to enjoy a social distance vacation during COVID. So say 4 couples, 8 people want to get together on a vacation. There still are limitations preventing us from having that certainty. Like, we don't have the virus, we're safe, we can, partake in all of the activities that we always have. It doesn't work with incubation times, with testing results that are delayed. and the lack of tests, or the lack of the whole supply chain is messed up with that. And then also just being asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic doesn't work. So I started, and this came about from me trying to meet up with people that were essential workers, or that put me at risk of coming back and like being with my parents during that time. So it was a very like personal draw. So I started identifying what I would be comfortable with in a situation, meeting somebody who we didn't have the time or the resources to get tested and ensure that we didn't have the virus. So separate indoor living spaces, air ventilation, plumbing, those are all ways that have been researched now that the virus could spread. Safe outdoor community activities designed for social distancing, comfortable amenities, personal showers, toilets, all of those things is what I wanted. And then a stress-free environment. So I felt that hotels, rental homes, Airbnbs, motels, and camping, there was nothing that met my 100% criteria. So I decided to design it. I did research, started doing research on modular tiny homes. I thought they were really unique. They're on wheels. They're all like self-sustainable. They have, really what attracted to me most was it has everything that you need. And I have no problem living in a tiny place, but it has everything you need, and they're able to move. So the limitations with that, you can play with it. It becomes fun. So my initial designs, this is just some of them, but what does it look like when two tiny houses are next to each other? What does it look like if they start interacting with each other? What if it's more than two? I actually went to a community in Alexandria, Virginia that has modular homes. They're a little bit bigger than these tiny homes, but when I photographed, I came back, I did sketches. They're very Frank Lloyd Wright inspired. Really cool. Check it out. It's Holland Hills is
That's a cool neighborhood. I've been there a lot. Yeah.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
So, and an architect that I had spoke with about this project, he suggested it, and he's from New York too. So it's a good one. Yeah. So I started thinking, I pulled the pieces apart, and I said, what happens if I have 5 pieces and two of which actually can be attached and detached, depending on the type of the number you have in your party, if you have 1 person, if you have 2 person, but say this would be like a community that everybody would know each other, that you would come together. So 5 modular structures, all on wheels, that would allow for repositioning on the land, and lead to different combinations. You could also take these and move them according to season. So they could be in California, they could be in North Carolina, they could be up in Michigan. It's possibilities are endless. So this is my super rough initial rendering of what 5 modules would look like together. And that each, I'm going to push even more the public outdoor space, because I think that there can be, right now I have this idea of the colors correspond to the house, so that you sit in the chair that's always yours, and that kind of thing. So I'm having a really fun time with this. But yeah, thank you. That is my design thinking.
Very cool. Way to go. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
and way to go bringing that tiny house stuff together at the very last here, because you didn't have that a couple of nights ago.
I didn't have that.
Very, very cool. All right, good deal. So you got in 14 minutes. Excellent.
Sweet.
All right, so we have one comment for you, and this is from Nima. And Nima, I'm just going to unmute yourself and tell Meredith that.
Hey, so I'm not sure how familiar, and we could talk about this offline as well, but I think first of all, I love that like there's a sustainable systems component to everything you're doing. And also, I think one of the hardest things about creativity is that to make into a process, right? Because that's what true, like you're a true professional. And I think it's worth acknowledging here. And I thought, we can talk about on the line as well, but I'm not, if any people are familiar with Burning Man or how like basically you have sustainable architecture in the desert, right? I mean, some of these concepts would be like, especially the third one would be really helpful in terms of like, you know, as a test environment potentially, maybe not in like the full tiny house scope, but like, you know, people are using containers, for example, and building houses out of that. So, you know, we could talk about that more offline, but just a thought that came up or stimulate conversation here.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk about that because I think there's a sense of community that we're going to need. Even honest, like Burning Man is all about community. It's about coming together and enjoying each other and feeling free and no stress, not having to worry about anything. And that's part of what my like the mission was behind it, was to just come and even though it's on a smaller scale, you know.
No, it's microcosms. So.
Micro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about it later. We'll catch up soon.
Okay. I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love
cool.
that.
All right. Dave Markey, unmute yourself, please, and ask away.
Hey, Meredith.
Hi.
So yeah, thanks for sharing all that. I'm cruising around like some of your websites and stuff, and you've got like lots of different ventures and things going on. And so what I was curious about was how you, if you struggle with, you know, the fear of shipping and putting your stuff out in the world, which I think a lot of artists do. And and if that's a struggle for you, how you deal with it to, you know, to get all these ideas out there and in front of people.
Yeah. Such a good question.
Because she's a badass, Dave. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. Meredith is just a badass.
Well, thank you. So I think starting Catsy Cats, which is a whole nother story, I felt, so it's a collaboration company with different artists, singers, dancers, painters, photographers. Miles been doing a ton of work for me for the past couple of years. We've been collaborating together. Actually, he's been shining. That's the right way to say it. And with that, I trained myself to think about it as not, I'm putting my work out. I'm representing a collective of people. And with that, I was just like a portal for it. And I've been able to transition and try to trick my mind in a different way now and just say like, okay, you know, I was able to continue to push it. There's definitely anxiety and a little insecurity about it, but you just, at that point, you're just like, I don't know. Such a good question.
Have you always worked, like, has working on a team always been a part of your process, or is there like a solo practitioner part of your work that you had to, that like, can you function both ways, or do you have to be in a team environment?
I'm a solo worker, actually. I'm a really, I've worked for myself since college. And moved up to New York and pretty much like gained other clients. So I tend to, when I want to get something done, I will lock myself in my room or in the studio and just whatever it takes to get it done, or set a limit, set a time, set a date. And I do really enjoy working by myself, but it starts with that first initial thought, the identifying and then research, like those two first steps that I talked about. It always starts with that, no matter what I do. And then I bring in people. And whether or not an idea is worth bringing in people or not, it's at that time that I make a decision. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Sure.
All right, good deal. So we've got time for one more question. Jude, unmute yourself and take it away.
Hey, Meredith, thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have a couple questions. I'll try to make it quick. The first is with these designs that you're proposing, especially regarding the modular houses. I'm curious whether this is something that you are sort of proposing for right now for this moment in time, or to be kind of constructed during this moment in time, anticipating the further need for this going forward. And I guess the question there is really, how much do you think that the social changes that we've implemented as a result of COVID are going to stick around?
Will last, yeah. So I think that with the modular homes, they're designed in such a way that can be set within an environment, not necessarily just together. I think that it is transferable past, we get a vaccine, everybody's fine, we move on from this. How can they be used? That's a great question. And the idea of them being transferred from like the beach, they're pop-ups. They could be a pop-up. They can be this, what's the draw to it? It's like, the pop-ups are coming to Austin. You got to book it now, hurry up and like get it before it goes. So there's that type of appeal that you can add to it. And in addition to that, like global warming, I believe, it's a thing. And, our coastal lines, like the coast right now may not be the coast that will be in 10 years. So by instead of buying a beach house, instead of investing in a huge resort, have something like this. And if there's a huge hurricane that's about to wipe out like a mile of the land, pick them up and move them. Take them to Colorado.
I love that idea.
Take them to Austin for South.
Take them to Austin. If it's too hot in Austin, take them to Omaha. I don't know.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I thank you for answering that. That's a really cool idea, envisioning how many scenarios those can be useful in.
Yeah.
My other part too is that I remember Jeff mentioned that for your company, Catsy Cats, which I did a little snooping around on, you do concert events and you work with performing artists. And as a musician, performing artist myself, I'm naturally curious about what that looks like.
Yeah, totally. The performing artist part really came with our leather jacket series, and
as it would.
Right. And when I was like really, really active in all of this, when you're in the right place at the right time, things come to you. I mean, I met Nima, who's on here, by getting on a bus and coming down to DC after talking to him on the phone through a mutual friend in New York. So things were happening like that, where I was meeting different artists. And at that time, I had an artist approach me and I said, do you want to make a leather jacket? In that same week, I went to go see a concert and I thought, oof, like, love his music. What would that look like? What would that art look like? So I called him up. I said, I want to put you in a leather jacket that represents your song that I heard at your concert. My artist is going to paint this. We're going to get it photographed. Let's get you in a recording studio singing your song. Let's do a music video. It started with that. Then it turned into the next artist. We ended up, it just went so fast. We had a gala with sponsored by Reebok, and it was such a, now I don't know exactly when we're going to get back to that here with the COVID, but it was just mass collaborations centered around one piece of apparel that was put on a singer.
So can we see the leather jackets?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where can we see that?
Out. If you go to catsycats.com, here, I'll put it in the chat, because I know we gotta get to Katelyn's wonderful stuff too.
Yeah, we gotta get moving so that we give everybody their they're shot, and then we're going to open this back up again once we get there. All right, so cool. There you go. Katsica.com. Oh, sorry, Rado. It's Katsica, not Ka. Sorry, I spelled that wrong for you. All right, so excellent. Thank you very much for those great questions, everybody. So our second badass for tonight is Katelyn, a 2016 SVA grad. Katelyn, have I been mispronouncing your last name? Kopenhaver or Kopenhaver?
Kopenhaver.
Kopenhaver. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Work examines universal issues wrought with consternation through social commentary. She exposes the subtle and not so subtle nuances in our everyday that are often overlooked and combines that with her personal experience and sometimes fears. Working in photography, video, performance, and installation, she uses text and the body to confront the viewer and place them within situations of isolation. Kopenhaver is preoccupied with societal oversight, those crucial moments that are seen but forgotten, the glimpse of an act between two people that alarms us, an instant where we ask ourselves, should I intervene? She has had numerous photography publications, exhibitions, and artist write-ups both nationally and internationally, including New York Magazine, the Brooklyn Rail, and Netflix, and is in current collaboration with jewelry company Article 22. Katelyn is based in New York City and works as a freelance photographer and artist. Everybody, I give you Katelyn Kopenhaver.
I don't have to go now, right? Because you just like
yes, you have to go now.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. This is really amazing. So I am a photographer and multimedia artist. I'm originally from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I studied at the School of Visual Arts, where I predominantly focused on photography. But my senior year, I ended up exploring other conceptual work and other mediums to describe and express that work. So I have a foot in this like commercial pond and a foot in this art pond. So let me show you exactly what it is I'm talking about. So I'm going to bring you to my website. Okay, here we go. So this is my website, KatelynKopenhaver.com. These are assignments that I've had with clients, brands. I'm not going to like bore you with all of this, but I just wanted to show you a couple because they're pretty fun and interesting. So this is Noah Baumbach, who is the director of the film A Marriage Story. It premiered on Netflix like a couple months ago and is with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. This was a really awesome assignment, but one of the most challenging because I only had 20 minutes with this guy and I thought I had an hour. They were like, okay, you have 20 minutes, go. And we need him to smile. Like, we have to get him to smile. And I'm like, okay, great. So, you know, and it's like misting outside and raining. So I got a smiling shot. So that was great. This was published in Netflix Q, which is a magazine that they have to highlight new movies and talent. This is another assignment called Judgments with New York Magazine. So like I shot this in like the hot of August heat, like the hottest day like of the year, it felt like. But this was like an anthropologic study of people and like how they hold themselves and what they wear and what that says, how that describes them and what it says about them. So this was an amazing assignment because photo director Jody Kwan knows I'm like particularly interested in this and studying people and, you know, like using my camera in a way to study people and have a conversation and encourage dialogue. So this was really exciting. You know, and like working as a portrait photographer, you have to be like a really good problem solver. You have to be really quick on your feet. And that's like a challenge I'm always willing to accept. So it's pretty amazing. So getting into more conceptual work, I'll bring you to A Line of Kopenhaver, which is a series of fur coats. So the fur coats are articles of clothing that I source through thrift shops. They're always vintage. You know, I'm not like a person who condones like for buying for new, you know. So I also like to use objects in the world that already exist. So, because that's really exciting to me. So I print statements on the backs of the coats that are quite provocative and go along the idea of predation and the act of being hunted and what that means. So this is corruption walks in disguise. I was thinking about, you know, manipulative personalities and how like sociopathic and psychopathic personalities navigate the world. A wolf in sheep's clothing. This is the PreCOVID, which is pretty much the catalyst to this, I guess you could call it like an obsession with fur coats and making the statement and using language. My dad actually purchased this coat for me for like $10 at an auction, and I didn't wear it. It was like in a closet in my old apartment, and one day I wanted to put this phrase on a photograph and it wasn't working, and I had this moment in the lab at SVA, and I was like, I gotta go get that coat, gotta go print on it. So it became this. You Are Not Following Me was inspired by walking home one night, and a friend of mine had a bag snatched from her, and the cop told us that he was at least following us for like 10 blocks or so, and something about being followed really creeps me out. These are installation shots. So I had a show at Gallery Pen and Brush, which is on East 22nd Street. So I do like installations with them, and then they also paired the photographs or the self-portraits with them as well. This was a performance that I did outside of Fashion Week one year when I was completely uninvited. And this was like an introduction to performance and how I didn't put myself in the performances yet, but I'm like dipping my feet in the medium of performance art. So I also do commissions with the coats. So this is something You've Been Lied To that is in Switzerland for this fashion stylist. Her name's Hannah. So the coats, I do phrases that are like one-offs that are contingent on culture at large or society. So if anyone has a subject matter that they're grappling with, or I have a bunch of phrases in my archive, let me know, and maybe we can do a piece for you. So from here, you know, I started to realize that photography isn't my only way of expressing this predators and prey phenomena. So I began really, after the idea of, we'll get back here, after the idea of being hunted and predation and wearing these furs, I started thinking about sex trafficking. I started thinking about abduction. I started thinking about my personal fears and my paranoias and dreams that I've had, and how this is really affecting me. So AM to PM is a performance video where my partner actually abducts me in various different situations throughout New York. So I'll show you just like one sneak peek, because it's 4 minutes and 35 seconds long, not all on my website, but so it's quite brutal, but how it was installed was really fascinating, because at Pen and Brush I had 3 different monitors, and it was in a basically a storage closet. So they took all the chairs out that they usually store in there, and then we put my video in there. And in some scenes I'm completely fine, some scenes I'm not. And your back is quite literally against the wall in viewing this. And you have the claustrophobic kind of feeling around you when you're watching it. She Was Last Seen is a project that I was doing because I started researching missing persons cases, and I started noticing the repeated language in them. And She Was Last Seen was something that really stood out to me. It's also a phrase that connotes no idea or no concept of hope. Usually anything following this phrase is found dead or continues to be unsolved. And I like to put it depends where the mattresses are and if I have, the muscle at the time to move them, but I like to put them in places of transit where people have to quite literally be disrupted and walk around them and really see them and grapple with them. So, and then this is kind of me in action here. People are like, what is she doing? So pairing this on a mattress too is connoting, so many things. Sex trafficking, rape, sexual assault. And it's kind of brutal in the way that I write it, and it's supposed to be that way. Open secrets. So these are large photographic prints. So the Catholic priests abused 1,000 children in PA, report says. The nicest person you will ever meet, the sociopath or the psychopath. And this is repeated language found in missing persons cases with an ocean that is overlaid it, because more than often than we know are these cases just swept under the rug or taken out to sea, and we never hear about them ever again. This is an installation view. Instructions for commuters is a sequence of directions that I like to think I would do, that I've concocted in my mind if I were ever to be abducted by a cab driver. Because so often do I think in New York City, do we step into the cars with complete strangers with this idea of being brought to our desired destination. So this is an installation view. I also wrote them down because I think, an art piece can exist in multiple forms. So this was like more of a textual piece where I placed it in the backs of Ubers and cabs outside. Brown Hair, Brown Eyes is a performance that I did at Pen and Brush so my partner in the abduction video, we actually did the abduction video, but live. So this was like one of the biggest and most insane things I've ever done in my life. Because, I basically wrote these mini scenes and we acted them out. And this performance is also talking about the idea of help. And when a crime goes down or when we see something going down, who is reluctant to help and who isn't? And I even included the audience at moments, and I would yell at them because none of them helped me. So coming back to the Predator banner. So this is the newest work I've done. I've been documenting the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell case for a while now, like months. And if people don't know, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are serial sex traffickers and pedophiles that have deep, deep ties in our political and social systems. So I wanted to, and it's also a phenomenon that's been going on for God knows how long. So I wanted to bring that to light even more. So I wrote Epstein is the worst kind of virus. And I began walking back in site-specific places where Ghislaine and Jeffrey would walk. There's something interesting to me about going back to a scene of a crime or a place where something brutal happened or someone walked. This was the banner on ABC News, which was really exciting. I do self-portraiture with the banner. This is, July 4th. This is the Columbus Circle statue that you actually could not even get near now because it's barricaded. But, looking at this picture, a couple weeks after I took it, I was realizing that, abuse and predation is not only embedded in our history of America, but it's celebrated. There has to be someone that stands for that. This is his residency in the Upper East Side. We're just on the surface. Central Park, where Ghislaine would often stroll to recruit young women to bring back to the Upper East Side mansion. I went to the Met. So you get the idea. So I will bring you to the COVID work that I've been doing as well. So I've been really looking at the, in conjunction with this predatorial, like hard-hitting, really dark but truthful stuff, I'm also kind of like balancing it out by photographing, the landscape of New York City and also Minneapolis, because I went there this past June, because I'm realizing that, in order to find the truth, you have to really put your body in the place that you seek it. So, I go outside after protests are done. I'm documenting, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing what's gone, what's changed. I'm recognizing textual elements and advertisements and how they're shifting meaning because of the context of the times and what that means. Deliciously fun stands right above police officers pre-protest and reporters that are ready to capture it, and I'm just like, fun for who, AutoZone in Minneapolis, completely dismantled. This is an overview of Minneapolis, so you can check these out. With everything else, I'm working on a documentary film called "Who Was Behind the Mask," and it is a film that was originally about the coronavirus in New York City, but it also has expanded to Minneapolis and is also unveiling these other social injustices that are going on during this time. So portraiture is something that's like near and dear to me. Like if I could just, be an editorial, portraiture photographer for the rest of my life, like that would be amazing. Because it's such like it's a mini bond between people. It's a really special collaboration between photographer, camera, and subject. And I'm always thinking about the camera, as a weapon, and the camera as as access to people that I would never normally have. And sometimes I give my subjects, like here, a disposable camera to photograph me photographing them. So it levels out the power dynamic in the photographer-subject relationship, because that's something I'm really thinking about, and when I photograph protests or when I photograph movements, I'm wondering my place, and I'm being very, very cautious. And it's a space where I can encourage empathy and I can have a dialogue. Portraiture is like so special to me, and it's something I hold like near and dear in my heart. And then you can see there's it's a virus one. This is like the landscape of New York back in March. So I have, a bunch of work. I'm really like this mix between this like anthropologist and a journalist, and I'm just really trying to seek the truth and be as authentic as possible. If anyone has any questions or wants to talk about any work that maybe I didn't get to, please let me know. But this has been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so we'll open it up. You've got a couple of comments here so far. We are at just right on 8 o'clock, so we'll want to move to Miles in just a second. But Dave Markey is saying, Katelyn, it's cool how, in a way, you were stalking Epstein and Maxwell by tracking their movements, and then the frustration is that it's too late to track them down. Samantha says your work is so incredible. Dorothea is still on. Dorothea says, thanks again. I hope to receive the recording. I have to go. All right, so she did go. Thanks again for orchestrating this. Quite welcome, Dorothea, if you're still on. We do have time for just a couple of questions for Katelyn. So does anybody have any questions in particular that you want to ask before we move along? Type them into chat if you do, and then I'll call on you. Meredith does. Go, Meredith.
Yeah, Meredith.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I have a question on Faces Behind the Mask.
Sure.
When you are taking their portrait, do you just meet them at, where they are? What draws you to them? Do you just find tell me about that process.
Sure. Yeah, so it ranges. So because I was doing interviews for the film, so some interviews were set up with people that I knew, and then some interviews were by like complete strangers. So it's really like luck of the draw. Like we'll just go up to people and I'll like talk to them, and you know, it's interesting because some people are like, oh, I'm like, oh, you want to be interviewed? We're doing a film about the coronavirus. And some people are like, oh, you won't like what I have to say about that. And we're like, yeah, let's talk. And then, you know, there's people that I interviewed that I didn't photograph afterwards. There has to be something really, there's something about the people that I choose to, you know, take portraits of in this series that just like something draws me to them. If it's like how like what they're wearing or what they said in the interview or the color of their eyes, or you know, and it's something that I always want to capture someone like with justice, you know, and I'm shooting them with 120 film, so I try to like do just that, but it's quite difficult. But you know, I usually like engage in dialogue, I have conversation with them, you know, I try to meet someone at their energy level, and I try to be fast, you know, I don't want to like you know, consume someone's time so much. But really like getting someone to talk and open up is like really like my goal when I take portraits.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, good deal. And Hannah has a question. Take it away, Hannah.
Hey, thank you so much, Katelyn. That was absolutely amazing to see. Really appreciate you sharing.
Oh, thank you.
You said something that I wrote down actually because I really liked it. I'll send it to you if you like it. You said, in order to find the truth, you have to put your body in the place that you seek it. I wonder how much of your own truth are you seeking to uncover when you're visiting these other locations? Stories of, use the word brutality a lot, stories outside of yourself that you're putting your body into. How much of your own truth are you seeking when you're doing this kind of work? And also, I guess the question that I'm kind of projecting in there is like, whose truth are you looking for?
Right. So it's tricky, right? Like where does the truth lie? You know? So I think really what I'm trying to do there is, you know, witnessing it like with my own eyes rather than reading about it, rather than seeing a photograph of it. You know, like what is in the area that is misrepresented, or what was in the area that wasn't seen? You know, what kind of energy does the area have? Not to sound like hippy dippy, but you know, there's something that resides in spaces. And I think it's really telling, you know, it's all in the details. So I don't think it's, you know, I try to make, I mean, we could have like a long philosophical conversation about truth. It's so loaded, but I really just try to make something as authentic as possible. And I even do this when I capture, you know, portraits. Like I want it to be as authentic and genuine, and I want people to feel comfortable. You know, I don't want the camera to kind of feel like this like mechanism that is you know, a weapon in a way. Like I'm very aware of the mechanics and the, you know, how I'm speaking to someone, how I'm moving around in the space. If that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. And I would love to chat with you more. I do work a lot on truth and somatics and how you gain access to that. So we can talk more.
Sure thing.
Excellent. All right. So there's one more comment. Lewis says, no questions. Just want to say that your work is really important. So, and Jude says, tremendously powerful and moving work. All right. Excellent. So let's move on to Miles so that we have some time at the very end for a little bit of open dialogue between all of us. So our final badass for the evening is Miles Hendrickson. New York City-based visual artist and photographer Miles Hendrickson, also known as Miles Rickson, has been refining his skills in a variety of photography mediums for several years. Originally a violinist and violist for nearly 2 decades, Miles has cultivated his musical prowess and knowledge, excuse me, to fuel his passion in fashion and portrait photography, among other mediums, utilizing his classically trained perspective to produce captivating imagery compositions. Miles' vision is inspired by diversity and the evolutionary manifestation of traditional combined with modernistic. Using light as his paint and the lens as his brush, Miles is focused on transforming the human perspective in the direction of a more mindful and inclusive future. Everybody, I give you Miles Hendrickson. Take it away, Miles.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction. And before I start, I also want to thank my father for curating this. This is a learning experience for myself because I do not have much, presentation experience. And thank you, Meredith and Katelyn. Your work is very inspiring, and especially your execution with your visions. Let's see. So, yes, my name is Miles Hendrickson. For those who do not know me, now you do. I'm going to talk a little bit about my creative process. Bear with me. I do have a lot of images to show. However, I have unfortunately run into an iCloud issue and lost thousands and thousands of photos. But I have much visuals to show you today. Let's see here. Okay, let me share my screen. Can everyone see okay and hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Make that a little bit bigger though. It's kind of tiny.
Yes. All right, let's see here. Is it clear? Everything clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So many of you who've been following my work thus far probably know me as Miles Rickson. That is my artist name, if you will. I was born in Manhattan, actually, and I grew up in several states around the U.S., mostly in Alexandria, Virginia, where Meredith is also from. I've lived in Ohio, New York, a bunch of places.
New
and
Jersey.
New Jersey, yes, New Jersey as well. And I just want to tell you a little bit about how my creativity sort of turned into a passion for visual arts. When I was younger, my father actually used to take myself and my brother to the museums in DC, and I would see a lot of like Matisse work and just a lot of different artists. And when you're a kid, you absorb things like a sponge. So I'm sure all of the visual artistry that I experienced when I was younger is ingrained in my subconscious somewhere, and somehow comes out into the photos that I create. But yeah, I'll start off with some of my musical background, because that's really where my artistic endeavor started. In the 4th grade, I was 12 years old, I believe, if I'm counting right. And I started playing the violin. And I actually played throughout elementary school, middle school, high school. I started doing competitions, like district, regionals, and national competitions where the best instrumentalists from my age group and the surrounding area would get together and audition for a position to perform for the community. So it was really a lot of very talented, hardworking musicians, and we put on a huge program, and some of it was orchestral music. So that includes stringed instruments and wind instruments, like the clarinet and the flute and saxophone and everything. And then I also performed in a lot of chamber music, and particularly stringed instrument ensembles, which is, it was my life for 15 years. And during that period, I actually picked up the viola as well, which is, for those of you who don't know, is a slightly larger version than the violin. The violin is played in treble clef. That's how we read the music, and the viola is played in alto clef. So really learning music is like, it's another language basically. And yes, that was my life for 15 years. And I actually went to college, to Shenandoah University, which is a liberal arts college and conservatory combined as one. So it was an interesting world at Shenandoah University, where you'd have all of the music nerds and music geeks, in one part of the school, and then you have all the liberal arts students who didn't really know much about music. But yes, I learned a lot there, and I performed with many talented musicians. And my former teacher, Doris Lederer, was my former viola teacher. And I learned a lot of discipline from her, especially. And, I say all of that to sort of segue into the next chapter of my life, which turned out to be a passion for visual arts. And I think that kind of connects back to, when I was younger and I was going to the art museums and seeing all of the masterpieces in there. So a little bit throughout my college career, I actually realized that performing arts, as in, violin performance, was not my true passion. And I slowly made the transition and moved to New York City to start my photography career. And I basically started on like a little cell phone, flip phone photography stuff, and then I moved to like a small digital point and shoot. And I actually have my DSLR here today that basically kicked off my whole really cool compact Sony DSLR full frame. So this basically kicked off my whole interest in fashion photography and starting to refine my imagery to be more artistic, because obviously all of us artists are going towards that masterpiece direction. But yes, this camera was gifted to me by my grandfather, which one of the best gifts ever. It's really a tool that allows me to show my perspective and vision through the photos I take. And everyone's imagery is unique, just as everyone does not have the same sound, cannot produce the same sound on the violin or viola or cello. Everyone cannot produce the same kind of imagery. So it's very unique in that aspect. So let's see here. So let's get started. I have organized a cute little PowerPoint here with the images that I still have. But yes, Miles Rickson is my artist name. This photo here, little introduction photo, was something I took in LA at a photography master class with one of my mentors. His name is Rui Faria, and he is a very accomplished fashion beauty photographer based out of London. And he has definitely given me a lot of advice and words of confidence to, to help me personally believe in my artistic representation a little bit more. Let's see here. So I want to start off with a little mood board example and how I kind of, put together all of the ideas to do a shoot. And this kind of process is more so for like a fashion editorial, or if I need to direct my final image to be more aligned with a magazine or like a brand. So this example here, let's see if I can move my cursor. I guess I can't while I'm in here. This one is from a shoot I did last year in February of 2019. It's called Masculine et Féminine, and basically it comes from the idea. So our society has this idea that men and women have to be a certain way. Like men have to be very masculine and women have to be very feminine. That's a very limited, it's a very limited way of, viewing a person and a human being, when, in actuality, we're much more complex than that. So this shoot in particular, I wanted to demonstrate and show that, regardless, male or female, everyone possesses, characteristics and traits like masculine and feminine traits, regardless of how much you try to suppress one or the other. And so here you can see, basically I start with a potential model that I'd like to use for the shoot. And this one in particular, she's not the model that we got for the shoot, but you'll see shortly in my next slide some photos from the actual shoot. So my idea was to find a female or male model. In this case, I went with female, who seems to have like more androgynous look. And so let's see here. So I highlighted a lot of inspiration images that have like more feminine body language. Let's see, I have a section for more masculine body language. So I just, I go online and I find images that, can kind of portray to my team, stylists, makeup artists, hairstylists, what kind of aesthetic we want to portray for each look, and, make sure that the whole shoot at the end is very cohesive. Let's see, I have a hairstyling section here. So you can see that what I'm going for is more of like a sleek, like wet, kind of shiny look. It's not very high glam. It's just very simple here. And I have a section here for color story. So this really helps the wardrobe stylist, pick out garments that are all going to, represent this idea of masculine and feminine through the shoot. And there's one thing I want to point out. We make these mood boards to kind of get a general idea of what we want our final product to be. But, I believe that, as a photographer, your final product is really a surprise a lot of the times. You never know what, exactly what you're going to get. It's always going to be some sort of a surprise. And I think that's, what's really enjoyable about it. There's nothing that's ever the same. that goes back to what I said before, as, each photographer can't produce the same image, each violinist can't produce the same sound. It's really how it is. Let's see, let's go to the next slide. And, I provide simple images for like location and stuff like that. And let's move on to the next slide. So here's a little introduction to my publication from February of 2019. This was featured in Flannel magazine. And as you can see, the artist here, Sheridan Clara, was our model. This was actually the model that we ended up working with. A lot of the times the modeling agencies, they like to come up with like last minute excuses as to why the model can't, the original model you chose can't make it, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they found, a higher paying shoot for the day. So they, they make an excuse and say, oh, well, we can send you this model today. So, Sheridan was a great replacement. And honestly, if I had the choice to pick her first, I would. She was really amazing. Wardrobe stylist Kia Hill. She is a really great wardrobe stylist. She has many great resources. I believe she's working on a TV show at the moment. Chris Tabasi, just giving some shout outs and credit to my fellow artists here. Chris is an amazing, very skillful makeup artist who helped on this shoot. And yes, photography by me. So let's continue. So this is, these are two images from the first look number 1. And so basically I wanted to start the shoot with a more masculine, androgynous, like tomboy look. And as the shoot continues and as we change looks, it gradually becomes more feminine. So as you can see, sorry, let me go back here. We started with the model's body language is very, relaxed and carefree, which is, generally what our society associates with like masculinity. We have the oversized leather jacket here. The location, this is actually right outside the studio in the alleyway. It's like very rugged. The aesthetics pretty much fits the look for this and what I'm going for. Here we move back into the studio and we've changed to a little more, like, I guess you can call this formal casual. And let's continue. So you can see from the last two looks how it gradually starts, becoming a little bit more feminine. So this is look number 3. And you can also, see through the model's body language too, how she's portraying her body, that it's becoming more aligned with what society views as a more feminine posture, posing. And this is the last look from the shoot. Let's see here. Yeah, so you get the general idea. I think this was actually one of my first publications, so I'm really proud of this shoot here. And I think we all as a team executed it pretty well. I think the audience can see, how it transfers from a more masculine look to a more feminine look here. Yeah, so that is my editorial for Flannel magazine, Masculine et Feminine. Let's move on to some, personal work. This is my good friend, Aliwun. He is a model signed to IMG Models. And, considering our current state of affairs with this coronavirus thing, a lot of models aren't working right now. I need to get in touch with him and see what he's doing, because I'm sure we can get together and do another personal work project. But I want to make a distinguish like how I feel about personal work versus something that I am submitting for a fashion editorial. So if it's for like a magazine, and I want to make a submission, as I showed previously, you know, I map out like a mood board and I get my team. But for personal work like this, I don't organize a mood board, because I feel most free when I'm doing personal work, and I don't have to limit myself to, you know, align myself aesthetically with the magazine, you know, and what the client wants and stuff like that. So I think in these images, you'll sort of see a little more like freer spirit and a more not laid back, but a less limited approach to the kind of images that I capture here. Let's see here. So this was a first.
Hey, Miles.
Yeah.
Miles, you're going to have to wrap it in just a minute. We're at 8:27, and we want to be able to get some questions in for you.
Oh my goodness, time flies. Okay, let me go through. Yes, so this was the first look. This was on my rooftop here. Very simple. So this day was actually very overcast. And it always turns out when I want to shoot outside, the sun is never shining. It's always in New York, you know, overcast, and the weather just knows, you know, that I want to shoot. So it battles me, it repels me. But basically I use, you know, this overcast lighting as like a soft light. It was just really simple. My camera, the overcast lighting, and I had one small bounce reflector. Let's see here. So this is another look here. We were in Grand Army Plaza. Yes, Grand Army Plaza. And, you know, as I said, for personal stuff, I don't really map out and plan things. I just choose a general location, and we kind of go wherever. And, you know, if we see something we like, we shoot there. And Aliwin is really amazing. Like, I really don't have to tell him anything. I just go stand there and do it. And he just gives everything to the camera, and I just capture it. So that's, like Katelyn mentioned before, you know, in my words, you know, working with a model, you know, the model is an artist as well. And it's kind of like a dance between the photographer and the model. And you have to build, you know, a decent amount of chemistry in a short amount of time, especially when you're, you know, working with a new client or a new model. But in this case, you know, I know Aliwin, so we just make the magic happen. And let's see, we moved over here to, where are we here? Prospect Park. Yes, we're in Prospect Park in these images. You know, and he was just changing his outfits in the car, and, you know, it all worked out really well. You know, this look, it's a more darker, warmer tone, so it goes great with the fall time foliage or lack thereof foliage on the trees. Let's continue here. And lastly, we took some shots in the stairwell in my apartment complex, and I actually styled this look. He brought the gingham checked blazer, and all the other garments are just like from my wardrobe that I put together on him. Luckily, we wear the same size. Here's some stuff. Besides portraiture and fashion, I do like to photograph many other things. So here's a few examples of my dance work at the top left. That's Costa Karkashian, and he's also a good friend of Jude, who's has joined us today. Costa also attended Columbia University. He's an amazing creative director, dancer, choreographer. And in the middle section here, I've highlighted some of my favorite architecture stuff that I took. And let's see, the first one with like the red leaves and stuff. That's in DC, actually, in one of the museums. The middle photo is, let's see, downtown Hudson Yards. When it was newly built. I don't know if anyone has seen the new Hudson Yards area yet of New York, but it's pretty crazy. And the last one on the right is also from DC. And on the bottom here, I've highlighted some of my nature photography as well. Although I do have a vision for my work, I don't really have like a niche that I like to do. My vision for my future success is to kind of like combine all of it together somehow. So I'm still working on ways to do that. And if you have ideas that you want to run by me, please feel free. Yes, so thank you very much. You can find me on Instagram, email, and my website below. Thank you.
And all that will be on the PDF that you're all going to get. So excellent. So there you go. There is your triple powerhouse of badasses tonight. Who's got some questions for Miles? We don't have to stop right now. We can keep going. So if you've got some questions for Miles, shoot them in there. Jude says, love these. Lewis says, I love these. From Meredith, Miles, you did a wonderful job putting the dance, landscape, and architecture photos together. Lewis says, all the power to you for that. Any particular questions for Miles?
Thank you.
Any questions? I got one. Dave, go, man.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Miles. How's it going?
Good.
Good. So, you're Jeff's kid. What's the most important? What's a lesson about art and a lesson about life that you've taken away from your dad?
Oh wow, put me on the spot like that. I'm not prepared for this one.
Right in front of him. I know.
Okay, ask me again. I have to be prepared for that. Ask me again.
Okay. A lesson that you've gotten from Jeff about art, and a lesson that you've gotten from Jeff about life.
I think it would have to be because he's reminded me a lot. That I don't have to do what everyone else is doing, and that I have to stay true to myself and true to my heart. It's really easy to be distracted from your own truth a lot, especially in the society we live in. So I think day by day, as I acquire my wisdom, I'm moving closer and closer to that. So I think that's definitely one thing that I learned from him. Hope that answers.
Do you have a favorite viola joke?
Oh my gosh, no, I do not.
I didn't even know there was.
There's so many. Oh my gosh, I can't even. I don't know. There's just so many. Violas are so mistreated as stringed instrumentalists.
Misunderstood, right?
Misunderstood, yes.
Yeah, misunderstood. Okay, so let's see. Katelyn says, your photographs of your friend are seriously so stunning. There is such a beautiful thing in collaboration, especially with photographer's subject. Keep making work together. Absolutely. Yeah, I really like the work that he and Halloween have been doing. Yeah, absolutely. They've been doing some very, very cool stuff. I do want to make one little shout out here in the fact that we have Rado on with us, and Rado lent you some pretty cool lenses that you use to do some work with as well, right?
I didn't even know Rado was here.
Oh yeah, Rado's here, man.
Hey Rado.
Don't say this. Hi Miles.
Oh,
so happy to see your art evolving.
Thank you for attending. Yes, Rado. Yes, shout out to Rado because he's been such a huge supporter of my photography ever since we used to work together at a previous company. And he's also lent me a lot of equipment. So I thank you so much, Rado. Your support really fuels my passion for photography. Thank you.
Rado,
thank you for doing this because of all of you, I've seen an incredible passion for art and an incredible also sense of the big social issues that are rocking the world now and have been rocking it, some of them, for years. And it's the only thing that mitigates the violence in society in realizing how important these issues is art. So what the three of you are doing is incredibly important, from the environmental issues to the violence issues and sexual abuse and human trafficking, to bringing realization of what makes our awareness of stereotypes and why we should destroy stereotypes. I mean, this is socially incredibly important. And only art can bring this in a way that's humane and non-violent. So I'm not an artist. I love seeing and supporting what you do, and I believe in that mission. So keep doing this, and in any ways we can help, we'll help. Yeah.
Thank you, Rado.
Yeah, Rado's been texting me the whole time, and he is very impressed with all three of you. He's been shooting me texts the whole time, like, wow, oh my gosh, she's fantastic. You know, so good stuff. This is open forum right now, so whoever else wants to come off of mute, if anybody else wants to say anything, like I said, we can stay as long as you guys want. I don't care. If you need to go, you can go. That's fine. But if you know, whatever, if anybody's got any comments, we just really appreciate you being here with us tonight for this very first one. There were a couple of hiccups, but we're learning. I'm learning how to use Zoom the best way. I'm learning how to build websites the best way and to get this out. If any of you want to present, please let us know so that we can form the next one around you. We'll pick another three of you. We'll put together a really good cross section of people and we'll do the next one. If any of you have friends who you think might be really good for this, please let us know that as well. Okay. Anything anybody else wants to say? Katelyn, Meredith, anything you want to say?
I'm gonna call out some people who I haven't heard from. Hi, Lewis, and let's see, Samantha. Hi, Samantha. Maybe someone would like to share some of their passions or artist endeavors that they have, or interest in art.
Lewis says hi. Samantha says hi. Hannah says thank you. I'm interested in presenting, but I'm scared. Samantha, we can get you over that. Miles was scared to death too. Miles was really nervous about this.
I hate presenting.
Sam's actually working on a really amazing podcast called This Is What We're Working On. And she's interviewing like all different kinds of people and artists. It was like, you have to present. Which should be awesome.
Who was that for?
Samantha.
Yeah, cool. All right, Samantha. We'll get you going. We'll just talk. And essentially the way we do this, for those of you who are left and still here, what we do is we plan this out about a month in advance. And I'm your mentor. I'm the guy who's going to tell you, yeah, I think you should do this. I mean, essentially it's up to you what you want to do, but I've been leading people like this for many years. I started off in the clothing industry in New York City and switched to tech a while back. I work all around the world. I teach. I lead big groups of people. I present. I have written a novel. I'm a painter. I'm a photographer. I'm just one of those kind of guys. And this is an idea that I wanted to do. And as soon as I decided that I wanted to do it this way, I called Miles. And here's what was funny about that. When I called Miles, I said, I want you to invite two of your friends. And I already had them written down. I already had Katelyn and Meredith written down on a piece of paper. And I said, I want you to invite two of your friends. And Miles goes, well, yeah, Katelyn and Meredith. And I held it up to him and I go, what are the names written down on this piece of paper? Katelyn and Meredith, right?
Oh, my God.
So there's been a lot of really, really cool synergy here. Hannah, I would love for you to do something on here at some point in time too, if you want to. There's so many cool things that you do, and I hope you make the connection with Katelyn that you wanted to do here. But I think it would be super for you to come on and do whatever you feel like doing. But you've got such a creative spirit, and such a great mind. I would love for you to do something at some point in time. Jude, I know we want to get you on here too, right? Dave, man, you're a phenomenal videographer, and the ideas that you come up with could be really cool for this type of event too. So let's just keep it going. I want to make this a really, really big thing. We're starting off small. We're making our mistakes. We're going to keep making mistakes, but I think we can create a synergy with something like this, and I think we can really keep it going.
Sounds amazing.
And thank you, Jeff, for really,
thank you.
Yeah, seeding this operation. And it has been a wonderful, I mean, just doing the initial run and then having check-ins in between to talk about how we would like this to go. And also getting me to think about my process. I had to define my process, which I've never had to do before. So I understand myself a little bit better now.
Cool.
So thank you.
Good deal. Glad I could help out with that. All right, guys. Well, if nobody has anything else, I guess we will wrap it. Thank you all again very much for coming in. This is being recorded. I'm not sure exactly where I'll put the recording yet. Maybe I'll throw it into like a Google folder, and if anybody wants it, I can put the link out there. Everybody who registered for tonight is going to get the PDF that has all the contact information for Meredith, Miles, and Katelyn. And you can get a hold of me through that as well. I'm not the center of this. Everybody else is. I'm just helping put it all together. That's what I'm doing. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.
All right. Bye, Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Glad I could be here. Thanks.
Cool.
Ciao for now.
All right. Ciao for now. See ya. Bye, everybody.